Have you ever wondered why some people effortlessly get others to pursue them desperately while you keep chasing with no results? What you're about to discover will forever change how you interact with women you're interested in. Today, I'll reveal the secret phrase that will make her chase you first, based on Neil Strauss's psychological principles that very few men understand. Imagine this: no more unanswered messages, no more feeling like you're always pursuing, no more rejection. Instead, she's thinking about you, she's texting you first, she's wondering why you haven't written to her. This transformation is possible when you understand that attraction isn't about chasing, but about creating a magnetic vacuum that she wants to fill. Most men make the same fatal mistake. They try to impress, demonstrate value, and convince a woman they're the best option. Neil Strauss discovered that this approach is exactly what destroys attraction from the beginning. Why? Because whoever chases immediately gives away their power. The first key to understand is that the secret phrase isn't really a phrase itself, but a concept expressed in words that activates a psychological switch in the female mind. This concept is based on a fundamental truth. People value what they can't easily have, what represents a challenge, what they must earn. Neil Strauss explained it brilliantly when he said that attraction isn't a conscious choice, but an automatic emotional response to specific stimuli. When you stop chasing and become the prize, you trigger that automatic emotional response in her. It's as if you're activating a code in her mind that makes her wonder, why isn't he trying to impress me like everyone else? Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how women always seem attracted to those men who appear indifferent to their beauty? It's not a coincidence. It's because those men, consciously or unconsciously, are applying this principle. Here's a simple exercise to start integrating this mindset. The next time you interact with a woman you're interested in, mentally count to 3 before responding to anything she says. This small pause conveys that you don't immediately jump at her stimuli, that you have control over your reactions, and that you're evaluating what she says before responding. It seems simple, but this small change will begin to alter the power dynamic in your interactions. Have you ever wondered why some conversations flow naturally, while others feel forced and tense? The difference lies precisely in who holds the emotional power in that moment, and that first pause places you in a position of subtle but powerful control. Before continuing, if this video is already providing value to you, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more content like this that will transform your social and romantic life. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point, because the secret phrase that makes her chase you has a lot to do with how you handle mystery and uncertainty. The second crucial element is understanding the power of controlled mystery. Neil Strauss revealed in his teachings that the known bores the human mind while the unknown fascinates it. When you're an open book, when you reveal everything about yourself, when your intentions are completely transparent, you eliminate any space for curiosity, intrigue, and fascination. The secret phrase incorporates this principle of deliberate mystery. When you tell a woman something like, "There's something about you that intrigues me, but also something that makes me hesitate. I'm still deciding what I think about you," you're creating a fascinating paradox in her mind. On one hand, you acknowledge something positive, the intrigue, but immediately introduce uncertainty, the doubt. This combination is powerful because it activates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, an uncomfortable mental state that demands resolution. In simple terms, you've just planted a seed of curiosity that won't leave her in peace until she knows exactly what intrigues you and what makes you doubt. An everyday example of this is constantly seen in movies that hook us. Why can't we stop watching a good series? Because each episode answers some questions, but raises new ones. Your presence in a woman's life should work the same way. Each interaction resolves part of the mystery, but adds new layers of intrigue. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're in a promising conversation, share a revealing personal story, but stop right before the conclusion and say, "But that's a story for another time." Observe how this simple technique creates an open loop in her mind that will demand to be closed, making it much more likely that she'll seek another interaction with you. Have you noticed how some people manage to keep you thinking about them even when they're not present? It's not magic. It's the power of controlled mystery masterfully applied. Practice this mantra before going out. I don't need to impress, I only need to intrigue. Repeat it 3 times and observe how it changes your attitude and energy when interacting. But mystery alone isn't enough. It needs to be combined with another equally powerful element, and that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The third essential component of the secret phrase involves selective validation and specific recognition. Neil Strauss discovered that one of the deepest human needs is to feel that we are seen and recognized for qualities that others don't easily perceive. This is doubly important for women who are accustomed to receiving attention for superficial attributes like their appearance. When you tell a woman, "I noticed something about you that most people probably overlook," there's an intensity in the way you listen that suggests you think more deeply than others. You're activating a powerful psychological mechanism. You're showing her that you see her in a way others don't, that you perceive qualities in her that go beyond the superficial. The brilliant thing about this part of the secret phrase is that it accomplishes multiple functions simultaneously. First, it sets you apart because it implies that you observe and analyze more deeply than the average man. Second, it makes her feel special and unique, not for generic reasons, but for something specific and seemingly authentic. And third, it suggests that you have high standards and selective criteria. Neil Strauss explained it perfectly when he said that attraction is built through selective recognition of non-obvious qualities. The power of this technique lies in its specificity. It doesn't work if it's a generic compliment or an observation anyone could make. An everyday example. Imagine the difference between telling someone you're very intelligent versus "I'm fascinated by how you connect seemingly unrelated concepts when explaining your ideas." The first is generic. The second demonstrates that you've really paid attention and valued something specific. Here's a practical exercise to develop this skill. During your next 3 social interactions, challenge yourself to identify a non-obvious quality in each person you talk to. You don't always need to verbalize it. The goal is to train your mind to observe what others don't see. When you find the right opportunity with someone you're interested in, share your specific observation and watch how they react. Have you noticed how some people seem to have a sixth sense for discovering what makes you unique? That feeling of being truly seen and understood is addictive, and it's exactly what you'll be creating when you master this part of the secret phrase. If you're finding value in these strategies so far, imagine what you could achieve by consistently applying them in your life. Take a moment to like this video and share it with someone you think could benefit from this knowledge. And now let's move on to the fourth fundamental element, because everything above must be combined with something that most men never understand, and it's what really makes her chase you first. The fourth component of the secret phrase involves what Neil Strauss calls strategic withdrawal, or the art of creating space for her to chase you. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive element for most men, because we've been programmed to believe that we must pursue, insist, and constantly demonstrate our interest. The truth is exactly the opposite. As Strauss said, attraction grows in the space between interactions, not during the interactions themselves. When you end an interaction at its highest point and then create a vacuum, you're leveraging one of the most powerful laws of human psychology, our tendency to complete what is incomplete. When you say something like, "It's been really interesting to discover this facet of you. I have to go now, but there's definitely more about you. I'd like to know another time," you're implementing this strategic withdrawal. You make it clear that you've enjoyed the interaction, but also that you have a life beyond her and priorities to attend to. The powerful thing about this part of the phrase is that it turns the farewell into a tool of attraction. Instead of being the dreaded moment where you could lose the connection, it becomes the catalyst that makes her want more. It's like closing a book right at the most exciting moment of the plot. It creates an almost irresistible impulse to open it again. An everyday example of this is seen in TV series that end each episode with a cliffhanger. It's no coincidence that we can't resist watching just one more episode. When you end an interaction at its most interesting point, instead of stretching it until it becomes boring, you create that same addictive effect. Here's a practical exercise. In your next promising conversation, mentally establish a time limit from the beginning. When you reach that limit, regardless of how well the interaction is going, implement your strategic withdrawal. Say something like, "I'm really enjoying our conversation and could go on for hours, but I have to leave now. Let's continue another day." Observe how this time limitation transforms the dynamic and increases your perceived value. Have you noticed how the most attractive people always seem to have something better to do? It's not a coincidence. It's because they instinctively understand the power of scarcity and know when to withdraw. As the old proverb says, always leave them wanting more. Repeat this mantra when you feel the temptation to prolong an interaction too much. My absence creates presence in her mind. This simple phrase will remind you that sometimes walking away is the most powerful way to get closer. But there's a fifth element, the final catalyst, that unites all the previous ones and really activates the psychological mechanism that makes her chase you first. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The fifth and final component of the secret phrase is what Neil Strauss calls progressive investment, or getting her to invest more and more in you and the interaction. This is the master element that transforms passive interest into concrete action. It's what will literally lead her to chase you first. The psychological principle behind this is profound. We value that in which we invest time, energy, and attention. When we get someone to invest in us, we not only increase our perceived value, but create a psychological commitment that seeks to justify itself. The final part of the secret phrase implements this principle when you say something like, "I'm intrigued to know what it would be like to see the world through your eyes for a day. Next time, tell me something you've never told anyone else." This specific and challenging request accomplishes several things simultaneously. First, it presupposes that there will be a next time, subtly implanting that expectation in her mind. Second, it invites her to a controlled vulnerability that represents a significant emotional investment. Third, it gives her a task or mission that keeps her mind connected to you even after you've gone. Neil Strauss explained it perfectly when he said that whoever asks more questions controls the conversation, but whoever assigns small missions controls the dynamic between interactions. When you give her something to think about, something to prepare for you, you're occupying mental space in her life. An everyday example of this principle is seen when someone asks for our advice on something important. We immediately feel valued, become emotionally involved, and develop an interest in continuing to participate to see the outcome of our advice. It's a way of investing in the situation. Here's a practical exercise. After a good conversation with someone you're interested in, propose a small challenge related to something you've discussed. It could be as simple as, "Since you mentioned you love photography, send me the photo that has the most meaning to you and tell me why." These types of requests create a bridge to the next interaction and motivate her to take the initiative. Have you noticed how some people manage to make you think about them even when they're not present? It's not a coincidence. They've planted questions, challenges, or expectations in your mind that keep the connection alive. Recite this mantra when you want to implement this principle. I don't seek answers, I plant questions. This will remind you that your goal isn't to get everything immediately, but to create enough intrigue and commitment for her to take the initiative to seek more of you. When you combine these 5 elements, controlling your reactions, controlled mystery, selective validation, strategic withdrawal, and progressive investment, you create a psychologically irresistible formula that activates the deepest mechanisms of human attraction. The real magic happens when these components work together. First, you control your reactions, showing that you're not easily impressed. Then you introduce the element of mystery that creates curiosity. Follow with specific validation that demonstrates your unique perception. Implement a strategic withdrawal at the right moment. And finally, request an investment that keeps the connection alive until your next encounter. What you're creating isn't just a phrase that works in the moment, but a complete narrative that continues to develop in her mind even when you're not physically present. And that persistent mental presence is what will inevitably lead her to chase you first. Now, let's take a moment to integrate everything we've learned and see how these principles become a complete and adaptable phrase that you can customize for different situations. The complete secret phrase, incorporating all the elements, might sound something like this. There's something about you that intrigues me, mystery. Your way of expressing your ideas reveals a depth that most don't immediately show specific validation. Though I'm still deciding what I think about you, control of reactions, I have to go now, but I'd like you to tell me about that moment you mentioned next time. It seems to have meant a lot to you, strategic withdrawal plus investment. This structure is adaptable to any situation and personality, but maintains the fundamental psychological principles that activate interest and initiative in her. Neil Strauss discovered that these principles work because they're rooted in fundamental human psychology, not in superficial tricks or memorized lines. When you master them, you not only improve your romantic interactions, but gain a better understanding of human nature in general. Have you noticed how this entire approach represents a complete paradigm shift? Instead of chasing, you persist in your own value. Instead of impressing, you intrigue. Instead of revealing everything, you create mystery. Instead of seeking validation, you offer it selectively. And instead of clinging to each interaction, you know when to withdraw strategically. If this video has provided value to you, and you want to transform not only your romantic interactions, but your understanding of human psychology, make sure to like it, share it, and subscribe for more content like this. Activating the notification bell will ensure you don't miss any of our upcoming revelations about attraction and social dynamics. The path to mastering natural attraction isn't short or simple, but the principles you've learned today are the first step to completely transform how others perceive you and how you respond to the world around you. The truth you must understand is that genuine attraction is never about chasing, convincing, or impressing. It's about becoming someone who naturally attracts others through the quality of your presence, confidence in your own value, and your ability to create emotionally stimulating experiences. Neil Strauss summed it up perfectly. True attraction isn't what you do, but who you are. When you integrate these principles, you're not simply learning techniques, you're fundamentally transforming how you relate to the world. Your challenge from today is clear. I want you to comment below with the following declaration to reaffirm your commitment to this change. I choose to become the prize that others chase, not the chaser that others avoid. This simple declaration represents a fundamental shift in your mindset, the recognition that your true power isn't in chasing what you want, but in becoming what others want to chase. Remember, the world doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. And when you become someone who knows their value, controls their reactions, creates mystery, validates specifically, withdraws strategically, and generates investment, you become someone who naturally attracts instead of chasing. If you commit to applying what you've learned today, I guarantee you'll start to see changes not only in how you interact with potential romantic partners, but in all your personal and professional relationships. Subscribe now, turn on the notification bell, and get ready to take your understanding of human attraction to the next level. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the secrets of social psychology that few know but that change the rules of the game forever.